Hey, in this video, I want to point out scams that I often see in work contracts and rent contracts that often even Swiss people don't know. Sometimes contracts in Switzerland are only 1 page long. And this is because everything that is not defined in a work or rent contract is obligated to Swiss law. So everything which is not defined, you find in the so-called Obligationsrecht. If you see a contract that is longer than 10 pages, you should really look into it. Sometimes employers or landlords, they put in clauses that are within Swiss law, and they want to just make it more clear what the things are about. But sometimes they put in clauses that contradict Swiss law. And in this case, these clauses are invalid, and the courts will judge accordingly. So if you see something that is not according to Swiss law in a work or rent contract, you can just sign it, and later on you will have quite strong negotiation power to dispute the clause that is basically breaking Swiss law. I want to point out 2 examples in work and rent contracts. So in work contracts, I often see, relatively often, most work contracts are fine, but sometimes I see something where the employer would extend the probation period beyond 3 months. This is invalid. A probation period can be maximum 3 months. And within this period, you can cancel the work relationship within 7 days. After the probation period, I mean both sides, right? After the probation period, the cancellation period, the minimum is 1 month for both sides. Another thing that I see actually more often is the overtime, how to handle overtime. So let's say in your work contract, you have to work 40 hours, but then you work more than that. Actually, in Switzerland, every employee has to write down how many hours he or she works. No matter if they work on a client or internally, this work has to be written down somewhere. If your company does not enforce this in some way, then you are breaking Swiss law. Well, the company is. So on top of not writing down the hours worked, you have the problem that they put in the fact that overtime is not compensated. So it's included in your salary. And this also breaks Swiss law because overtime has to be compensated, either by paying you money per hour you work too much or by giving you vacation. If they don't state this and say that it will not be compensated, it's also something that can be disputed even after a year or maybe longer than that. Rent contracts. In rent contracts, I saw a couple of times the fact that the landlord says that the minimum rent duration is 1 year and the contract cannot be cancelled before that. Well, this is partly true. This only means that the rent contract cannot be cancelled in the default way, where you just cancel and leave. But you can cancel and get out of the contract if you find somebody who takes over the contract with the same rent and conditions. In a city like Zurich, where there is less than, I think, 0.1 apartments that are not rented out, this is pretty easy. So you will find a person that is suited, meaning that the person has a salary and does not has any debts, because in these 2 cases, well, actually the debt thing is important. If the person has no debts, then this is a proper renter, and the landlord has to give the rent contract to this person, or just let you out of the the rent contract and find some other renter of his or her choice. So the landlord never has to accept. Obviously, the person you should suggest to take over the rent contract, but he has to let you out. And if he doesn't, he has to state explicitly why. And they will probably not do that because, well, this will lead to a sort of intermediary court, which, well, actually is not that expensive. It's not like a real court, but it's like Schlichtungsbehörde. It's kind of a step before where things will be figured out, probably in your favor, because the contract is basically kind of cheated in a way to deceive you from the actual regulations. Another thing I see often is that they put in the rent contract that small repairs have to be paid up until 500 Swiss francs, but actually the limit for that is 150 Swiss francs. So up until that, you have to pay like small repairs yourself. Bigger than that, you don't have to pay. Also, if you leave the apartment, the cleaning can happen by yourself, by an amateur. You don't have to hire a professional to clean your apartment, although many landlords put that in their contract. This is just deceiving information, and you don't have to obey that. If you have more questions, especially regarding work contracts, just reach out to me at ivan@coderfit.com. Don't let people scam you. Have a good day.